please don't shoot, do not shoot. Yes, I'm Gareth from WhatCulture Wrestling. Simon Miller is not here, but he promised me that he'd be nice. He said you'd be nice in the comment section, so if you're not, I'm going to tell Mr. Miller, and he's going to take the ups and downs dominoes off you. So on that cheery note of way of starting an ups and downs video, of course, yeah, I'm Gareth, and I've not really done this before, not really done the Raw ups and downs, done a lot of NXT stuff, done SmackDown once, done Rampage, so this is a big deal, very special time to be alive. And whoo, what an episode of Raw I had to talk about, because there was a lot going on a week or so away from Crown Jewel, so you know the drill by now. I'm going to give the ups, goods, and the bads, downs. That's how this works, right? Yeah, sure it is. Let's do it! So, kicking us off on this edition of Raw, like I said, Crown Jewel is like, what, a week or so away, week and a bit. So, Judgment Day came out, all 4 members of the Judgment Day, because they've got a big old match against the OC at said Saudi Arabia event. And, well, they had a bit of a spring in the step, didn't they? Because Dominic Mysterio rolled up AJ Styles last week, didn't he? Damian Priest was out in full biker kit mode, and then you had Rhea Ripley just being a little mischievous devil, and Dominic was just absolutely reveling in the fact that he beat AJ, and then Finn Balor had the audacity to say that match last week was one of the greatest of all time, and it looked like everyone in attendance wanted to fight him for it. And Dominic Mysterio then just doubled down on this. He got his typical raining down of booze moment, and he said that I am this generation's Eddie Guerrero. He's this generation's his own puppy. His puppy, he is his puppy of this generation, and his puppy was the Dom of his generation. There's a lot of generational madness, and oh, there was more to come. Because typically the OC just came straight out. They said, no, we're not standing for this. Dominic, you need to shut up. We really burned him there, AJ. And then instead of saying you're this generation's Eddie Guerrero, he kind of sort of alluded to the fact that he is this generation's James Ellsworth. So Dominic, you're a no-chin man, apparently. I did not think in the year of 2022 we'd seriously have James Ellsworth's name being name-dropped on Raw, but here we are. And this all led into a match between Finn Balor and Karl Anderson, the old club pals, OC, Bullet Club, whatever you want to call them. They were buddies, they had a fight, and it was a pretty fun match. There was a bit of a weird moment on commentary where Kevin Patrick was like, these two know each other so damn well, they know exactly what each other likes for breakfast. It got me thinking, well, what does Finn Balor like? Well, he probably likes a big bowl of catnip, and if you know, you know. And after some pretty slick in-ring action, you saw like a jumping neckbreaker thing from Karl Anderson on Finn Balor, which I thought was magnificent. His typical fantastic spine buster, all these lovely things that you know you're going to get with the machine gun himself. After all of that, chaos just ensued on the outside because Dominic wanted to get involved, because of course he does. He just wants a bit of attention, just wants a bit of love. And after all this, like everyone was fighting, everyone's getting thrown over an announce desk, Rhea bloody Ripley went and power slammed Luke Gallows. That's not a little man. That's not somebody maybe on the same size of a Finn Balor or a Karl Anderson or even an AJ Styles. No, that was the biggest dude of the lot. Just picked him up, scooped him, dropped him on the floor like a sack of spuds. This all led to the referee being a little bit distracted, so we had his back turned. Rhea came in, she gave old Karl Anderson a big old boot to the machine gun itself. He dropped to the floor, Finn Balor got the win, and Judgment Day have got more momentum, because who needs more momentum? Not the Judgment Day, but they took some anyway. And to be honest, this really worked for me, because the Judgment Day just need to keep stacking these odds, showing that they can outmaneuver. The numbers game's really playing in, because Rhea Ripley's not just like a stationary kind of manager. She can get involved, she can power slam a full Luke Gallows. And also it gives the babyface an even bigger hill to climb coming into Crown Jewel, which is precisely what you want coming into this kind of event. So I'm going to give the whole thing a bit of an up, and I believe there's like a distraction counter thing that we do. So I don't know if is that 13? 13 distractions? I tried to do some research, but my memories just escaped me, so I'm going to go 13. If it's not, I'm an idiot. We then relived the fact that The Miz tried faking a knee injury last week, and Johnny Gargano pretty much dropped him in it, but then The Miz attacked Dexter Lumis, and Dexter Lumis was, spoiler alert, he was missing from this entire episode, so the damage must have seriously been done. But then Gargano just confronted him, and he said, yep, you know, I did it last week, but I'm going to do it again. You need to tell people what's going on, or I'm going to blow my whistle. I'm going to blow my whistle. He's actually wearing a whistle. He's like, I'm going to blow this whistle and tell everyone the truth, Miz. There is a truth. And I'm pretty intrigued by this, because The Miz was still like, no, do not know what you're on about. I'm just going to feign ignorance. La 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 la. I'm just going to go out to the ring dressed in my full gear to just tell the world that there isn't a truth, but there is a truth. Let me explain. It gets very confusing. Because after we had a few shots of NASCAR legends and racers in the audience, and everyone loved that, so NASCAR, go racing. The Miz said that Johnny Gargano is accusing him of something, but it's not the thing that he thinks he's accusing him of, because he's going to explain precisely what the secret is, the thing that he's accusing him of, even though he said there wasn't a thing to accuse him of about 10 seconds earlier when there was a camera on him. The Miz said that the reason Dexter Lumis has been doing what he's been doing is because he came up to him a couple of weeks ago after he'd got involved with his US Championship steel cage match against Bobby Lashley. He said, the reason I need to, stalk you, Miz, is because I want your knowledge, I want your brain power, and I'm jealous because you give all that brain power and wisdom and knowledge to Tommaso Ciampa and not me. Are you keeping up? The Miz then had a really funny moment where he was just like, oh, and Ciampa, now we're speaking about Ciampa, he's gone missing. My bestest pal in the whole wide world, Ciampa. He pulled out this card with Ciampa on it. He said, if you've seen Ciampa, let me know. And then Johnny Gargano proceeded to let him know that he was full of horse crap. Because he said that he just texted Mr. Ciampa, and he said he's not missing, he's injured because he's a proper friend, so we've just kind of established on TV, on live main roster television, that these two are buddies. DIY's coming back, baby. And then things all got a bit weirder because Gargano started saying, you're not telling the truth, I'm going to tell people the real truth. Miz was like, I don't know what the truth is, you can't handle the truth. And then because everyone was talking about truth, our truth came out. Yep, yeah, I'm not making this up. Because he's a Carolina boy, so he came down, he was singing this song, everyone was loving it, and he said, well, you gonna tell the truth? I'm truth. What are you going to tell me? And I did crack up a little bit. I'll admit, I cracked up a little bit. Again, this all led to a bit of a back and forth, a bit of slapstick stuff, and Johnny was meshing pretty well with Truth, and then Truth was going to have a match with Miz just after this, but the entire thing just felt a bit shoehorned in, oh, Truth's a hometown boy, we're going to get him involved in this chaos, this carnage, and that's just, I don't know. It led to a match. And the match itself just felt like you were jumping back into a time machine or something, like back into 2011, because we've seen this a lot, haven't we? That was 11 years ago that these two were teaming together, fighting against each other and all this kind of stuff, and now here we are in 2022 and they're still having matches. And then the match happened, and it was just a bit of a throwaway nothing, in all honesty, and then the entire thing ended because The Miz got distracted by what appeared to be Dexter Lumis in the audience, wearing his gloves and his big hood. He got roll-up finish. I don't know if he's still got a counter for that, but there was a roll-up finish there, and The Miz was just looking perplexed when he looked into the audience and saw Johnny Gargano taking his hood off, because it was him, not Lumis. Distraction. And yes, another distraction. So is that 14? Two in a row already. Oh, what a show. I'll be honest, the bickering between Johnny Gargano and The Miz didn't do a lot for me. Didn't really make me feel like Johnny Gargano was this lovable babyface. R-Truth just being forced in because he's the hometown guy. Okay, nice little pop, but didn't really do anything. It probably won't lead anywhere, so it just felt like a bit of nothing, this, didn't it? But moving from Johnny Gargano over to his lovely wife, Candice LeRae, because she was having an interview backstage with Kathy Kelly. Oh, she got 2 lines out, and then Bayley and Damage Control came in and just interrupted. There was a lot of this on this show. It was like AEW all over again. And Bayley was like, oh, I just don't care about you, Candice LeRae. I battered your friends, I beat up all the baby faces. And Candice was like, what are you trying to do? Control the women's division? And I was like, well, have you read a t-shirt? Of course. And I think all this was just framed to make Candice LeRae look like a really valiant babyface, because she stood up to all 3 of them. She said, you're this, you're that, and Bayley, you're not the champion anymore, and you're not going to be the champion. It's just not going to be a thing. And then Bayley was like, we're your mates, we're going to beat you up. And that's precisely what they did, because she is a woman of her word. Elias was then backstage with Mr. Riddle. He was playing his old bong, get it, weed. And Elias just said, dude, we'll let bygones be bygones. Last week was a bit of a mishap. There's a lot of miscommunication. You interrupted, it is what it is. But I made a vow when I came back for people to stop interrupting me. I'm going to make it my mission to make people stop interrupting when I'm doing my music. And I just thought, well, why don't you just extend this to all of Raw? Maybe even all of wrestling, Elias. Every time somebody interrupts, just turn up and whack them on the head with the guitar so we can just get on with our lives. And typically, it was only a matter of time before somebody interrupted these two, because Alpha Academy walked in, shush, from Chad Gable. He said, you know what, Elias, I preferred you when you didn't have a beard. You looked like Ezekiel, because he was a bit of a goofball, but he was still lovable. And then Elias said, you do not say things like that about my brother. He was very, very angry, very pissed off. And he said, me and you, we're going to have a match later on tonight. Let's do it. Then we jumped to Austin Theory, making his way down to the ring. He had his briefcase. He was looking all cocky. And he was going to have a match with Mustafa Ali. And he had a little, picture-in-picture promo. And he said, this guy was crying last week about not having a United States Championship match. So I'm going to make him cry some more by beating his ass. And I was pretty intrigued about what we were going to do with Mustafa Ali after last week. He was pretty much the feature player of Raw. He was involved with Seth Rollins. He had that big end of show brawl thing with Rollins as well. I was like, oh, what are we going to do? this is what we were going to do. Because Rollins, before these two could even get into the ring and start fighting, he popped out and everyone was going, whoa, the guy is seriously over. I saw him at Cardiff, that was over, this is still over, he's got it. But the match itself was pretty good. These two can work, they're very athletic, they're very innovative, so that in itself, like, it didn't deliver anything more than what you were going to expect out of these two. But in the end, we didn't get the result we needed because Austin Theory's been beaten up loads. Like, he's not, another loss isn't really going to do much for him. He's got that Mr. Money in the Bank briefcase. He's pretty much Teflon at this point, isn't he? But in the closing stages, Seth Rollins just decided to get on the apron and try and distract Mustafa Ali when he was getting on the top rope. And Mustafa Ali didn't even look at him, really. He didn't really clock onto him. He just, like, got knocked off the rope when the ref had her back turned to the whole action. And then Austin Theory hit his A-Town down thing for the win. So Mustafa Ali lost, but they were trying to frame it like he got distracted, even though we didn't really notice the distraction itself. It was really messy, this. He gets a down. Also, because I've not done this in a while, I'm pretty sure I may have forgotten to give the Miz R-Truth thing a down, so it's gonna rewind. That gets a down too. But jumping back to the whole Ali-Seth Rollins thing, yeah, he actually lost the match and they tried to protect him, but he didn't really protect him. It just made him look silly because he wasn't really looking at the distraction. He just got knocked off the rope and lost, and it was what it was. And then they had a brawl and they tried to make him look great because he fought back from being beaten up and jumped by Seth Rollins, but the damage had already really been done. It feels like this push is already going in a bit of a weird direction that it didn't need to go, did it? And then Gargano was backstage, and this is kind of a thing throughout this show. Gargano was like the main guy. He was like the main character in the show. He kept popping up everywhere. And he said, you know what, Miz? We've both deceived people now. I deceived you in the match, and you're deceiving all the lovely people in attendance, so we're kind of even in a way. And this just paved the way for JBL and Baron Corbin. They walked in. He was like, oh, you're Johnny Wrestling. I am a wrestling god. And you are an indie guy, and I'm a legend. You should be carrying my bags. He did the whole spiel about, you know, the generation above, just saying horrible things to the generation below. It was all that kind of deal. And then Johnny said a great thing about JBL's pants being like MC Hammer because he was the talk of the internet with those baggy trousers last week. And we're going to have a match between Corbin and Gargano later tonight. And spoiler, Johnny Gargano doesn't really have bad matches, does he? Then we had a quick salute to the success of old Dwayne Pebble Johnson because Black Adam's been kicking all the ass. I actually watched it at the cinema last night. I had a great time. Ate loads of popcorn. He punched some people in the face, and there may or may not have been something really cool in the end credits, but I won't spoil it for you. But the big takeaway here was the fact that Corey Graves said that The Rock has dominated the DCEU, and what's gonna come next, we don't know. That's what he said. He kind of teed it up. That is confirmed. The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39. It's happening in print. Then we had a big old video package leading to Bianca Belair and Bayley, which is going to go on later on in the night. It's not a title match because, well, we can't just give you that because guess who's probably going to win? Spoiler. And after this, we had Omos taking on 4 people. The big giant Omos took on 4 people. And you know what? They didn't stand a chance, did they? They were never going to beat him. And that's precisely what happened. Because he came down to the ring and MVP was like, oh, did you see what he did to Braun Strowman last week? So just imagine what he's going to do to 4 goobers, to 4 local enhancement talents. He's going to kill all of you. And for a minute, they all jumped on him. And he was looking like he was going to get beaten up and he was going to get crushed into the ground. And then he exploded. Literally exploded. Omos exploded. I'm just kidding, he didn't explode, but he won the match, and it just didn't really do anything because there was no real threat. You didn't really think Omos was ever going to get battered by local talents, and we've seen the squash of local talents a lot with Omos. It's just gradually getting more and more people. You can have like a battle royale where he just throws everyone out in one push. You probably could. I'd actually be a lot more interested in that than this. This match in itself is not really doing much for me, so I'm going to give it a down, but the whole Braun Strowman Omos thing, I'm just intrigued. I want to see some big, meaty men smashing into each other, and we're going to get a lot of that on Crown Jewel, so I'm going to be a happy chappy. So I count that as 3 downs already. But wait, there is hope because Chad Gable is going to have a match next, and Chad Gable does not have a bad match. What I liked about all this is Elias, yeah, he's not as kind of athletic, or he has not got the same kind of amateur wrestling pedigree as Chad Gable, but you could tell he'd maybe been doing a few little sparring sessions with his old brother Ezekiel because he looked pretty good. I thought he looked pretty good in between the ropes. He was doing some nice slick counters. Chad Gable was caught off guard, and I thought, you know what, this guy, and Ezekiel, if they could tag team together, whoa, what a world. And the real big moment in this match was when Chad Gable was going for one of his epic moonsault things, and Elias, out of nowhere, hit his Elias knee on the moonsault thing. It was like, imagine the RKO in midair. It was like that, but a knee, and it was really great. And then we hit the drift away. He won the whole thing. Otis kept trying to interfere all the way through it, but he was not successful until after the match when he got involved and started battering Elias. And you remember earlier on when he was saying to Riddle, Elias was saying to Riddle, do not interrupt me, do not get involved with anything. Riddle got involved here, saved his ass, and that was storytelling, because Elias was clearly thankful and he thought, you know what, yeah, this was probably a good thing that he interrupted me, so you can do this is fine. Character growth, you could say, character growth. So this entire thing's gonna get a nice up. There is hope on this Raw, I told you. We then had the OC in the trainer's room. They were nursing the wounds and Karl Anderson was nursing his crown jewels, and they said, we've got a Rhea problem, don't we? And then Luke Gallows said, well, I've got a Rhea-lution, because I'm gonna go and sort out Rhea Ripley, because I'm the best with women apparently, because we guys and women and money. And he walked off and the two lads left there just went, well, he's not really that good, this is gonna be interesting. Now I'll just jump ahead because there was a weird moment here where JBL was in the ring, and then we cut back to the OC in this locker room kind of training room area, and Gallows walked in. He was nursing his crown jewels because he unsuccessfully tried to solve the whole Rhea Ripley problem, and he just suffered for it and his nads are now damaged. So what are the guys going to do to even these odds? That is the question. It's kind of being hinted that they might have to bring a lady in to come and deal with Rhea Ripley. Who could that be? I don't know. Bring in Raquel Rodriguez. She's big, strong, and just have them collide heads, because we saw what they did in NXT and I want to see that on the main roster. And then we had Johnny Gargano taking on Baron Corbin, King Corbin, Cool Corbin, Happy Corbin, Sad Corbin, with all the bells and whistles, and the match itself was pretty fun. I'm going to give it an up, because again, much like Elias, it felt like Corbin has added a few new things to his repertoire. He looks a lot slicker in between the ropes. He's never been awful, but I feel like he's just adding things to help sell this whole new wrestling god moniker of his. And then you had JBL on commentary being just an absolute terror. This new burgeoning feud between Kevin Patrick and just JBL is crazy. It's carnage. There was a point where Kevin Patrick called I think it was the Deep Six, he called it a Ring Around a Rosie or something. Ring Around a Rosie. He said that, and JBL said, what are we calling it? You're doing the play-by-play for Sesame Street? And I cracked. I popped. It was great. The match itself was pretty typical. It was your David versus Goliath stuff. You had like Johnny Gargano trying to cut down the big tree that was Baron Corbin, and then Corbin did a fall-away slam to just tip the old cowboy hat to JBL. It was lovely. And in the end, Johnny Gargano was always going to like get a little bit distracted by JBL on commentary, so he jumped on the announce desk that got stripped, and he put his cowboy hat on. He started doing a little jig, shooting his guns, and JBL was not happy with this. So later on, he distracted him. He kind of like grabbed him. It wasn't a distraction. It was more of an interference. He grabbed his ankles, and then that led into Baron Corbin hitting the end of days, and he won. He beat Johnny Gargano. And to be honest, he got what he deserved. He started dancing in front of JBL. He's a legend. He's a bona fide wrestling god. And then he got backstage and the Miz was there, and he said, yeah, dude, I'm really sorry about what happened in your match. It's a real shame. And we were even more sorry about what happened to Candice LeRae backstage. Your wife, me and Maurice, we got you a card because we just want to mend this bridge and we want to sit down, we want to have a chat like grown-ups. And Johnny said, I'm not going to do any of this. Just tell the truth next week or I'm going to blow my whistle. And then he checked the card. He'd not even written in the card. He'd not put any money in the card. This was just cardboard. And it was a very quick response to somebody getting beaten up like an hour before. Very strange. But again, I just want to salute the fact that Johnny Gargano was like the main player throughout all this Raw. You can tell that Triple H is really, really high on his Johnny wrestling. He's just going to keep popping up all the way through the show in backstage segments, during matches, in a match. I like Johnny. More Johnny's good Johnny. And then we had a Bianca Belair interview, and she was talking about this big old Bayley match that she's got later on tonight, and she said, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of beating up all my friends. I'm going to beat up all her friends, take everything she's ever had and will have in the future, and I'm just going to destroy her because that's what Belair does. Then we had a big old video to promote the Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar big, meaty, colossal match that's going to happen at Crown Jewel. And between that and the Omos and Braun Strowman thing, it's just going to be monstrous, isn't it? There's just going to be monsters. There's going to be kaiju smashing into each other. How is this stadium going to contain all these big Goliath men? You know what? Just have them have a match, and then have the Omos Braun Strowman match, then have a tag team match with all of them, then have a fatal four-way, and just call it Monster Mash. Book it. We then somehow had the main event. We've got there very quickly. This show did move quite quickly, I've got to be honest. There was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things just like went over 3 segments, but we got there, and it was going to be Bianca Belair versus Bayley, non-title match, and these two are pretty good together, so it was a pretty good match. The match is going to get an up. Because there was like a feeling out process at the start, but they know each other so well, so the test of strength thing didn't last very long, and they were just countering all their moves. There was a point where like Bayley just completely kneed up the moonsault thing that Bianca Belair does, and then Bianca kneed up the whole like elbow drop, and then she did hit the moonsault. They just knew each other like the back of their damn hands. And then we got to the portion where everyone tries doing each other's moves. So like Bayley tried to do the KOD, but then Bianca did the Bayley to belly. She did the Bianca to belly, and she knocked her to the ground and got a near fall. It was lovely. And all the way through this match, the little story that was being told is that Bayley was targeting this arm, this left arm of Bianca Belair, and every time she was looking in trouble, like Bianca was picking up momentum, she just attacked it, she yanked it, she pulled it off the barricade and hit it onto the floor. She was just using this arm against her, and it was looking like it was going to pay dividends. And there was even a top rope Bayley to belly that got a near fall. I don't think anybody's ever going to lose to the Bayley to belly again. It feels like it's been nerfed pretty badly at this point. And then as Bianca looked like she maybe was going to get a bit of a fight back on, Damage Control, who were at the ringside and didn't really get involved up to this point, they finally did get involved and stripped the table. This table got stripped a lot. It was like it was its own kind of strip bar, and it just kept stripping off and dropping its clothes. This took a bit of a turn. But this didn't bother Bianca Belair. She just nudged everyone out of the way, and then she started powerbombing Bayley onto everything. She was like, powerbomb onto the announce desk, powerbomb into the post, powerbomb into the apron, and then she threw into the ring, and then that's when things took another turn. There was a lot of turns going on. Because as Damage Control were trying to attack Bianca Belair, the ref got involved, and he said, nah, you two, go away. No, stop it. You're not very good. Get out of the ring. And as they turned around, all three of them, they got cross-bodied by Nikki Cross. Yeah, Nikki Cross, not Nikki ASH. Nikki Cross, dressed in normal people clothes, normal superhero. She just cross-bodied everybody. And then in the ring, we had the visual win from Bianca Belair because she hit the KOD and Bayley was out. Got the 1, 2, 3, but there was no ref, so it did not count. But then after this visual win that didn't really count, Nikki Cross got into the ring, battered Bianca Belair, just hit her with this like swinging neckbreaker thing, and then Bayley got on top of old Bianca. The ref came down, counted the 1, 2, 3, so Bayley won, and it looks like, oh, Nikki Cross is gonna have a big feud now with Bianca Belair. Oh, what's gonna happen next? But no, because Nikki Cross then attacked Bayley, so she attacked both Bayley and Bianca Belair. She attacked everybody. Like, she just left a big wasteland, literally, all around the ring. Everyone was dropped by Nikki Cross, who's got a new mean attitude, which Corey Graves was like, I've seen this attitude before, so she's going to be very similar maybe to what she was like in NXT. But the absolute wave of boos that were coming down from the audience just made this entire thing feel a bit like, oh, okay, like you've ruined the main event, really, but I'm kind of intrigued. I don't know where we go from here. Is this going to be Nikki Cross, like, taking on one or the other, or are they all going to be together in a triple threat? And does this protect Bayley then, so Bayley doesn't have to get pinned by Bianca Belair? They do have an eventual three-way Raw Women's Championship match. As you can see, my mind is already exploding with all the questions and things that could happen going forward, so I like this. This entire development, it's been a bit divisive to some, but for me, it's getting up. I think it's going to lead somewhere quite interesting, and it's anything but being a superhero for Nikki Cross, and I like Nikki Cross, so let's just keep her away from the blue and yellow. So those have been your Raw ups and downs. I have been not Simon Miller, I've been Gareth. I'm sure Mr. Miller will be back next week. He trusted me with his show, and I've destroyed it. I think I've put way too many downs. I think he'll absolutely kill me for that, because he's a positive Pete, and I'm a negative Nigel, so that's what happens. But to be honest, I think the show in general was pretty good. I think the ups outweigh the downs. I've not been keeping track, but there was a lot of good stuff to take there. I thought Johnny Gargano was pretty good across the board. Like, I like the Judgment Day stuff. I like Crown Jewels, because I'm a child, so I'm going to give it an up. I'm going to give the entire thing an up as a whole. So thank you very much for watching this week's Raw Ups and Downs. I have been your host, Gareth from WhatCulture. Follow me on Twitter at gmorgan04. Follow everybody here at WhatCulture at WhatCulture WWE. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, subscribe to all things WhatCulture Wrestling, and just click on anything. Click on anything around me, and when Miller comes back next week, I'm sure you'll tell him how much better he is at everything in the world, but we love him too. I will agree with you. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I hope it wasn't too painful. Bye bye.